After 35 long years away from Willow Creek, Virginia, I turned my Camry onto Oak Ridge Court at dusk. The street looked almost unchanged. Wide lawns, identical brick colonials, American flags on porches, the faint smell of fresh-cut grass even in early fall. Number 142, my grandmother's house, sat at the end of the cul-de-sac like it always had. Modest two-story with gray siding that had faded to a soft dove color, white shutters peeling at the edges, azaleas she planted in the 1980s now grown wild and leggy. I parked in the driveway, killed the engine, and just sat there for a minute, letting the quiet settle over me. I was 56, hair more salt than pepper, carrying the extra 15 pounds that come with desk work and too many airport meals. To any neighbor peeking through vertical blinds, I looked like what I appeared to be, a middle-aged man returning to settle an estate, nothing more. That illusion lasted less than 5 minutes. Sirens cut the evening air like a knife. 2 county cruisers screeched around the corner, lights strobing red and blue across every house on the block. Officers jumped out, hands on holsters, voices sharp and practiced. Hands up. Step away from the vehicle. Keep your hands where we can see them. I complied slowly, deliberately, palms open, movement small. I'd been in rooms where the stakes were far higher than a quiet, suburban misunderstanding. But the voice that followed made my jaw clench. That's him. The intruder. I told you he didn't belong here. Maggie Harlan stood on her perfect lawn at 138, arms folded over a cream cardigan, silver hair helmeted in place, lips pursed in righteous certainty. She pointed one manicured finger directly at me, as though I were a raccoon that had tipped over her garbage cans. The lead officer, name tag read Patterson, approached cautiously, eyes scanning me head to toe. Sir, identification, please. I handed over my Virginia driver's license, renewed last year. The probate court papers naming me sole heir, the original deed Grandma Evie had signed in 1963, and the key ring still bearing her home sweet home fob. Everything checked out in under 90 seconds. Patterson lowered his voice. You're the owner? Yes. Maggie's face twisted, surprise, then irritation, then the quick recalibration of someone accustomed to being right. Recognition flickered. You're Evie's grandson? Robert Harlan. Yes. She gave a short, mirthless laugh. Well, small world. Your grandmother never did care much for community standards. Always had an opinion. I suppose the apple doesn't fall far. She reached into her oversized leather tote and produced a manila envelope thick as a paperback. Since you're here, you should know Evie left some outstanding obligations. $4,300 in unpaid assessments and fines, lawn maintenance violations, exterior paint noncompliance, unauthorized holiday decorations last December. You have 14 calendar days to remit payment in full, certified check preferred, or the association will initiate lien and foreclosure proceedings under the covenants. She smiled then, the thin, practiced smile of someone who had delivered this speech many times and always won. Welcome home, Robert. I accepted the envelope without comment and walked inside. The house smelled exactly as I remembered. Faint lemon polish, old books, the ghost of her favorite lavender candle. Her recliner still faced the front window where she used to watch the neighborhood kids ride bikes. The ceramic cardinals she collected, one for every birthday after 60, lined the mantel like a red choir. Her photograph from her 85th birthday party hung above the fireplace. White hair in soft waves, eyes bright, smile wide enough to show the small gap between her front teeth. She looked like someone who had won at life. She hadn't. I sat at the kitchen table, the oak one Grandpa bought in 1972, and opened my laptop. Beneath a plain, World's Best Grandpa sticker, a joke gift from a colleague, was the raised gold seal of the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. 30 years at HUD, 22 of them in enforcement. The last 8 as Director of the Office of Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity Enforcement Programs. My desk in Washington reviewed complaints, audited associations, and, when necessary, signed orders that could dissolve an HOA entirely if it violated federal statutes or operated as an unregistered entity collecting funds under false pretenses. And 5 months before she died at 92, Evelyn Harlan had mailed a single-spaced, 4-page complaint to my very office. Shaky handwriting. Detailed chronology. 37 years of documented harassment, illegal fee collection, threats of lien and eviction, all from an organization that, according to Virginia State Corporation Commission records I pulled up that night, had never filed articles of incorporation, never registered an agent, never submitted a single annual report. Maplewood, no, Willow Creek Homeowners Association, did not legally exist. Maggie Harlan had been running a sophisticated, decades-long extortion scheme dressed up as neighborhood governance. And she had no idea the man she'd just threatened with foreclosure was the one person in America whose signature could end it all. The escalation began the next morning. 2 violation notices were taped to my front door with bright blue painter's tape, professional, almost cheerful. First, $250 for trash receptacle visible from street longer than 12 hours. I hadn't put out trash. Second, $175 for a vehicle parked within 18 inches of curb. My Camry was inside the garage. Both bore the signature of Margaret Harlan, president, and 4 other supposed board members. The handwriting was identical, same slight rightward lean, same medium ballpoint pressure, same flourish on the capital M. I photographed both, time-stamped them, uploaded them to the encrypted case folder I'd already started. Laura Bennett from next door brought over a chicken and rice casserole that afternoon. She was in her late 50s, soft-spoken, the kind of neighbor who still sent thank-you cards. We sat at the kitchen table. Evie was my friend, she said quietly. Maggie fined her relentlessly, sometimes $300 a month. Evie lived on Social Security and a tiny pension. She couldn't keep up. The stress had aged her faster than time did. She told me once she'd written to Washington, said maybe someone important would read it. I stared at my coffee. She did write. The letter reached my desk. Laura's eyes widened. You're director at HUD, Fair Housing Enforcement. She exhaled slowly. Lord have mercy. Maggie's going to regret this. That evening, Maggie's son Derek arrived, 34, broad-shouldered, expensive gym tan, the kind of confidence that comes from never hearing no. He leaned against his lifted pickup and called across the lawn. So you're the guy giving my mom grief. She says you've got an attitude problem. Bad move, old man. This street has rules. You break them, you pay, just like Evie did. I stood on the porch, hands in pockets. Threats are a bad look, Derek. He smirked. Not a threat. A friendly reminder. 14 days. Pay up or get out. He climbed back in his truck, revved the engine loud enough to rattle windows, and peeled away. Pastor Ellis Grant visited 2 days later. Silver hair, gentle voice, eyes that never quite met mine. Maggie can be forceful, he admitted over coffee on the porch. But she's kept property values stable for decades. Between you and me, she has connections. Her brother-in-law sits on the County Board of Zoning Appeals. Their attorney has never lost an HOA case. My advice? Settle quietly. Retire in peace. I thanked him. That night, I ran the names. No brother-in-law on any public board. The attorney had been disbarred in 2014 for trust account fraud, and bank records accessible through federal interagency databases showed monthly transfers, $200 to $300, from Maggie's personal checking to Pastor Ellis's for 25 straight years. Total, just over $62,000. He wasn't a peacemaker. He was on payroll. I cross-referenced state records again. 0 filings for Willow Creek HOA. Not a nonprofit, not a corporation, nothing. Every assessment collected since 1988 was, legally speaking, theft by deception. I installed 4 high-definition security cameras, legal in Virginia for private property, motion-activated, night vision, audio capture, cloud backup to a government server. 1 covered the porch, 1 the driveway, 1 each side yard. If anyone stepped foot on my land without invitation, I'd have courtroom-grade evidence. I mailed a certified letter to Maggie demanding, under federal disclosure rules, 12 U.S.C. Section 3601 etc., and related regulations, copies of incorporation documents, bylaws ratification dates, financial statements, board meeting minutes. She signed the green card herself. The 30-day clock began ticking. She never responded. Of course she didn't. The documents didn't exist. Derek tried charm next. Showed up with a 6-pack of IPA, all smiles. Thought we got off on the wrong foot, Mr. Harlan. Mind if I come in? I led him onto the back deck. He cracked a beer, offered me one. I declined. Look, he said after small talk. Mom knows you're asking questions. The document request. The calls to Richmond. She's not stupid. But here's the thing. We've got friends. Sheriffs who've known us forever. County clerks. You think you can fight City Hall from a retired guy's house? You can't. Nobody ever has. The cameras caught every word. I saved the clip 3 times. I let a rumor slip through Laura. I was thinking of selling, tired of the hassle, maybe heading back to D.C. Within hours, Maggie believed I was cracking. The next violation notice demanded $5,800 total. Past dues, new fines, administrative fees. 7 days, or lien, eviction proceedings, sheriff's sale. On the morning of day 7, they arrived just after sunrise. Maggie in a navy blazer, folder clutched like a shield. Derek bouncing on his toes. 2 older neighbors who always sat at her table during meetings. A private security guard in a black polo, arms like tree trunks. Maggie stepped onto my porch without knocking. Mr. Harlan, you have 15 minutes to collect essential personal items and vacate. This is an authorized enforcement action under the covenants. No court order. Bylaws Section 9.4 authorizes summary removal for chronic noncompliance. Which bylaws? Approved by whom? Recorded where? For the first time, I saw a real uncertainty flash across her face. Then she nodded to Derek. He shoved past me, shoulder-checking hard enough to knock me back a step. The guard grabbed my upper arms, pinning me against the doorframe. Derek stormed inside, started hurling things onto the lawn, my suitcase, books, Grandma's cardinals shattering on the concrete like drops of blood. He found the laptop on the kitchen table, peeled off the sticker, stared at the HUD seal. Mom, what the hell is this? Maggie pushed inside, snatched it. Federal property, I said calmly. Theft of United States government property is a felony under 18 U.S.C. Section 641. Everything since you crossed my property line is being recorded and streamed to a secure federal server. Maggie froze. Derek's face drained of color. I pulled my phone, already on speaker. It's Robert. Assault, battery, breaking and entering, theft of federal property, unlawful attempted eviction. Team en route. ETA 75 minutes. Maggie whispered, Federal? I met her eyes. I'm Robert Harlan, Director, Office of Fair Housing Enforcement, HUD. My office has jurisdiction over every homeowners association in the country, and my signature is about to end yours. 82 minutes later, 3 black Suburbans rolled down Oak Ridge Court. FBI tactical vests, HUD badges, warrants in hand. Derek was cuffed first, assault on a federal officer, theft of government property, unlawful entry. Maggie stood paralyzed on my porch as agents moved past her into her own home. They carried out boxes, handwritten ledgers showing $410,000 in unaccounted assessments, $98,000 cash in a bedroom safe, years of text messages with Pastor Ellis coordinating intimidation tactics, a list of 34 residents targeted for removal over the decades. Evie's name circled in red. I sat in the back of a HUD expedition and opened the pre-drafted dissolution order. 37 enumerated violations. Immediate and permanent cessation of operations. Nullification of all liens, fines, assessments. Prohibition on future participation by named individuals. I took out the fountain pen Grandma gave me the day I graduated college in 1990. Simple black lacquer. She'd saved for months. I can't give you much, she'd said. But when you sign something that matters, you'll remember who you are and where you came from. I signed. Willow Creek HOA ceased to exist at 10:47 a.m. on that October morning. The community meeting 3 days later filled the old fellowship hall at Willow Creek Baptist. Folding chairs overflowed into the aisles. Maggie sat in the front row in a cream suit, chin high, as though attendance alone could salvage her dignity. She was out on bail, awaiting trial. A senior HUD attorney took the podium. Effective immediately, Willow Creek Homeowners Association has been dissolved by federal order. It was never legally formed under Virginia law. All funds collected were unauthorized. All liens are void. A restitution fund has been established from seized assets. Murmurs turned to shouts. Stories poured out. $18,000 in fines that forced one couple to sell and move to a trailer park, An elderly widower whose wife suffered a fatal stroke after months of daily threats over a mailbox post that was 2 inches too high. Families who paid thousands just to keep the peace. Maggie stood. I protected this community. I kept values up. Without me. I rose from the back row. The room quieted. My name is Robert Harlan. I grew up on this street. My grandmother, Evelyn Harlan, lived here 62 years. Many of you knew her. She endured 37 years of what you called enforcement. She wrote to Washington 5 months before she died, 92 years old, hands shaking, begging someone to help. She never knew her letter reached me. I looked straight at Maggie. She believed in justice. Tonight, she gets it. The HUD attorney advanced slides, identical signatures on every document, bank records of payments to Pastor Ellis, the 34-name problem resident list. Maggie tried one last defense. A woman in the third row stood. You trusted him? We trusted you. You took our savings. You took our peace. You took years we can't get back. The room erupted in agreement. Pastor Ellis was already gone, picked up at a Greyhound station in Richmond that morning. Maggie was escorted out in handcuffs on new state charges that afternoon. 8 months later, the sentences landed. Maggie Harlan, 8 years federal prison, wire fraud, extortion, conspiracy to commit unlawful eviction, theft by deception. Lifetime ban from any community governance role. $410,000 restitution plus interest. Derek, 6 years for assault on a federal employee, theft of government property, breaking and entering. Pastor Ellis, 5 years probation, $62,000 repayment, 800 hours community service, permanent removal from ministry. Over 70 families received checks from the restitution fund. Grandma Evie's estate was repaid every cent extorted in her final decade, $14,200. A new association formed within weeks, 7 elected members, open books, dues cut from $425 monthly to $95. The old 53-page rulebook was replaced with 4 pages of basic covenants focused on safety and courtesy, not control. Laura Bennett planted new azaleas along the front of number 142, the exact variety Maggie once fined Evie over for being excessive. No one complained. I kept the house, but leased it long-term at below market to a young nurse and her 2 kids. Laura promised to watch over them. As I drove out of Willow Creek for the last time, the old wooden sign at the entrance, Willow Creek, a Maggie Harlan community, was gone. In its place, simple white letters on navy blue. A community for all. Grandma believed the system could work. I made sure it did. What do you think, friends? Was the outcome justice? Or did the power I held make the punishment too severe? Have you ever dealt with an overreaching HOA, a bully hiding behind bylaws, or years of quiet financial abuse? Have you ever had to stand up when no one else would? And how far is too far when you finally fight back? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me your HOA horror stories, your opinions on power and revenge, whether systems like this need more oversight or less. I read every one. Let's talk about it.